Why quiet people are secretly powerful. The quietest person in the room is often the most powerful, but most people completely misunderstand them. They assume silence means weakness, insecurity, or even fear. But the truth is, quiet people aren't weak. They're observing, calculating, and often operating on a level most people never reach. In fact, some of the most successful, intelligent, and dangerous minds in the world share one thing in common. They don't talk much. And once you understand why, you'll never look at quiet people the same way again, because what looks like silence is actually power in disguise. Welcome to Million Mind Shift, where we decode the hidden psychology behind extraordinary people and the mindsets that separate the powerful from the powerless. If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button right now. Every week we release content that will rewire the way you think, operate, and build your life. Now let's talk about something that almost nobody understands correctly. We live in a world that worships noise, that rewards the loudest voice in the room, that mistakes confidence for volume and power for performance. But the most powerful people I've ever studied, the leaders, the builders, the ones who quietly changed the world, almost none of them were the loudest people in the room. They were the ones who listened more than they spoke, who observed more than they reacted, who understood that silence is not the absence of power, it is power. Today we are breaking down exactly why people who stay quiet are usually the most powerful, and the specific psychological reasons behind it. Let's get into it. They observe everything while everyone else is busy talking. Quiet people are watching. They notice body language, tone shifts, hidden emotions, patterns in behavior. They don't just hear words, they understand meaning. And this gives them an advantage most people don't even realize exists, because in life, the person who understands more wins. Pattern interrupt. And here's what's interesting. The loudest person in the room often knows the least. They think before they speak. Quiet people don't rush to respond. They process, they analyze, they choose their words carefully. That's why when they finally speak, people listen, because their words carry weight. Unlike most people who speak just to fill silence, quiet people speak with purpose. They don't seek validation. Most people talk a lot because they want attention, approval, recognition. But quiet people, they don't need it. They're comfortable with themselves. They don't feel the need to prove anything to anyone. And that level of self-confidence is rare. They are emotionally controlled. Quiet people don't react quickly. They don't explode under pressure. They stay calm, even in chaos, still. And that's powerful, because in stressful situations, the calmest person is usually the one in control. Pattern interrupt. Think about it. When things go wrong, who do you trust more? The loud, emotional person, or the calm, quiet one? They think deeply. Quiet people spend a lot of time in their own heads, not in a negative way, but in a reflective, analytical way. They think about life, analyze situations, learn from experiences. This is how they grow faster than most people. They are independent. Quiet people don't rely heavily on others. They're comfortable being alone. They don't need constant interaction to feel okay. And this independence gives them freedom, because the less you depend on people, the more control you have over your life. They value quality over noise. Quiet people don't waste energy on meaningless conversations. They prefer deep discussions, meaningful connections, real conversations. They don't chase crowds. They choose depth. They are hard to read. Quiet people don't reveal everything. You can't easily predict them, and that makes them powerful. Because in life, the less people know about you, the harder it is to manipulate you. And this is where most people get it wrong. They underestimate quiet people. They strike when it matters. Quiet people don't act impulsively. They wait. They observe. And when they finally act, it's intentional, strategic, effective. Being quiet is not a weakness. It's a different kind of strength, one that doesn't need to be loud to be powerful. one that doesn't need attention to be real, and one that most people will never fully understand. So if you've ever been told, "You're too quiet, you should talk more," understand this. There's nothing wrong with you. You just operate differently. And in many ways, that's your advantage. If this made you see yourself differently, then you're exactly the kind of person this message was meant for. And if you've made it this far, you already understand something most people don't. Quiet people don't just behave differently from loud people. They think differently, at a neurological level, at a structural level, in ways that give them advantages that simply cannot be faked or shortcut. The neuroscience of the quiet mind. Research in neuroscience has found that people who spend more time in quiet, who regularly reduce external stimulation, develop stronger neural pathways in the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for long-term thinking, complex decision-making, and impulse control. In other words, silence literally builds a more powerful brain. A 2013 study published in the journal Brain Structure and Function found that even 2 hours of silence per day prompted the development of new cells in the hippocampus, the region of the brain associated with learning, memory, and emotional intelligence. Quiet people, by simply choosing silence, are constantly building mental capacity that louder, more stimulation-seeking people are not. The depth advantage. There's a concept in psychology called deep processing, the ability to analyze information at multiple layers simultaneously, to see patterns others miss, to connect ideas across different domains. Quiet people are significantly more likely to engage in deep processing than constant talkers, because deep thinking requires silence. It requires the absence of external noise. It requires the kind of mental space that most people are desperately afraid of, but that quiet people actively seek. This is why so many of history's greatest ideas were born in moments of solitude and silence. Isaac Newton developed calculus and the theory of gravity during a plague-enforced period of isolation and silence. P. Einstein did his most creative thinking during long solitary walks. No conversation, no noise, just his mind working freely. J.K. Rowling conceived the entire world of Harry Potter in complete silence on a delayed train. The common thread is not intelligence. It is silence. It is the willingness to be alone with your own mind long enough for something extraordinary to emerge. What this means, if you are someone who prefers quiet, who thinks deeply before speaking, who sometimes feels out of place in a world addicted to noise, you are not behind. You are not broken. You're not missing something. You are operating at a depth that most people will never reach, and the world will eventually feel the weight of everything you've been quietly building. Let's bring it all home. People who stay quiet are usually the most powerful, and now you know exactly why. They are always gathering intelligence while others are broadcasting. They never give away their power with unnecessary words. Their emotional control is extraordinary. They cannot be easily moved or manipulated. When they do speak, the entire room stops and listens, and their minds, built by silence, operate at a depth most people never access. Quiet is not weakness. Quiet is not shyness. Quiet is not something that needs to be fixed. Quiet is strategy. Quiet is intelligence. Quiet is power. And if you have spent your whole life being told to speak up more, I want you to consider the possibility that the people who said that were simply uncomfortable with how much power your silence holds over them. If this video resonated with something deep inside you, do 3 things right now. Hit the like button. It takes 1 second, and it helps this message reach the people who need to hear it. Subscribe to Million Mind Shift. We are building a community of deep thinkers, quiet builders, and people who are done shrinking themselves to make others comfortable. And share this video with someone who has been told they're too quiet, someone who needs to know the truth about the power they've been carrying all along. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, stay quiet, stay powerful, and never apologize for the depth of your silence. Million Mind Shift. Understand people, understand power, understand yourself.